Skyler, who's calling in from Arkansas. Skyler, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Oh, not much today. It's been pretty relaxing. Excited to be on air, especially with one of my favorite actors, just in general. I'm excited to talk, but you were talking about secular leaders and such, and I was wondering if you guys thought it was possible that we could finally get some secular representation, whether it be an atheist or just simply a secular humanist or humanist at all, properly in either like a governor or a some such role, because we're definitely a growing, still a minority, but we're definitely growing. And we have no representation, and we have no way to really get across the ideas and help that we want to get across, just to help humanity as a whole. We're not here for our beliefs; we're here for others, to help, genuinely help. Do you think we will ever be able to get to that point? We're just stuck, I feel.
John, do you want to go first on this?
I think it's not only do I think it's possible, I think it's going to for sure happen. I mean, you have to understand is that the moral code that those of us who are secular go by is very, very similar to the moral code that supposedly the religious go by. And I dare say the evangelicals right now are showing themselves to be hypocritical in many things by the virtue that they have those associated themselves with Trump. I mean, I'm appalled by the level of lying that goes on. It's appalling. It's appalling. My sense of who we are, our moral sense of who we are, it has a really difficult time with all of this lying. You would think that the evangelicals would have a difficult time with all the lying, except guess what? They're getting what they want. Well, there's something kind of wrong about that. And I would love to be able to take all of that out of there. I believe in many of the things that they believe in, and I just don't associate it with an external force. I think of it as coming from me. I think of it as humanistic, and I don't find it to be dangerous in any way. I know that they do, but that's because they think that we're going after them, but we're not going after them. Just like you said, we're trying to do the right thing, to be good for all people. So I believe that people who are secular, it's difficult in a country which is as religious as this. But more and more, especially younger people, are becoming disenchanted with the way in which the evangelicals are carrying on right now, and they're losing people in droves. And so that, I think, is going to help generally have a population which is just less religious. If you go to Europe, great civilizations there that are doing very, very well. They're just not nearly as encumbered by all this religious stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the history of some of the laws in our nations, particularly with state governments, there's actually specific laws that, if followed today, would break a lot of like Supreme Court rulings and stuff. But like technically, you can't run and be an atheist governor in the state of Texas because of a law that was made in like the 1800s. Right now, nobody would actually challenge that if it ever happened. But it's literally just never happened. Everybody that's run as governor for Texas has been a Christian since the foundation of the state. And that's been the case for pretty much every state in the union. And so I think right now there's like one representative in California that I think just identifies as like non-religious, or maybe he uses a humanist label. But other than that, you've got people who are varying levels of Christian, right? And obviously you got a lot of folks that have a God belief, but don't go to church or anything like that, and you see a lot of that amongst the liberal side. But as somebody who's an outright atheist, that's a tough sell. I talk about my friend Gail Jordan, who tried to run in Tennessee as an atheist, and what happened to her? Well, her political opponents just picked up all the stuff that she talked bad about religion before and just used that in the ad campaigns against her. And there was, it was just so hard for her to win in a climate like that. So will somebody who's an outright atheist win in any major election in the next, decade? That's going to be tough. I think you probably have somebody who's secular, like John was saying. I think that's probably more likely, but using any label outside of that is going to make it more difficult, which is unfortunate because, we are a minority in this country. But yeah, we're just having to work with what we've got. Now, we have seen some Muslim representatives in Congress, which is really cool. So maybe we'll see the same for atheists. I don't know, but and you see the hate that some of those guys get just for having their beliefs. So it's difficult.
Yeah, at the very least, diversity is a good thing. The more diverse we are, the more we can talk about things in this climate, and maybe, just maybe, we can finally get a foot in the door. Even if it means that we're still looked at as the outsiders. I would just want it to be at least, a little more fair for everyone. I can't tell you how hard it was when we fought, because I don't know if you heard about a news story that happened here in Arkansas a couple of years ago. I got involved, very involved, with our local government, and we spoke up and out against the state, straight up admitting that you could kick people out of their homes and fire them and just not give them any rights just for being gay or trans.
Yeah.
And our city won against the state. We ended up getting a ruling that stated that the state can no longer make those laws.
Yeah.
And that the cities only have that power.
Yeah, I wish we could make that universal. That's just something that it seems obvious. But yeah, if you're an atheist and you're trying to adopt, or you're gay and you're trying to adopt, depending on where you're at, you can totally just be discriminated and not be allowed the rights if it's a religious adoption agency, which is really awful. But yeah, that's just kind of the reality we're living in. Someone's trying to call you there, John.
Yeah.
But anyways, Skyler, it's a great question. Thanks for bringing it up with us. I'm glad we got to talk about it a little bit. Looking forward to hearing from you again sometime. You take care.
I appreciate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got him dropped before he could finish his thought there. But yeah, it's.
Well, I wanted to say to Skyler, and that is that I don't think one gets pushed into this thing of naming people. An atheist.
Mm-hmm.
I think one can simply say, "I'm just not religious."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm just not religious. It's not. It doesn't. I don't include that in my thinking and how I go about the world in trying to do good or fix problems or associate with people. I don't include that. I'm not religious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, John, because we, in our spaces, we talk about the word atheist and why we use it and what exactly it means. And if you're someone that is secular and you don't choose to use that label, I think, again, you should be treated the same way as those of us who do choose to use that label. I think a lot of us use it because we want to make a point about it. Like, hey, we're not just not religious. We specifically don't believe in some of the stuff you're saying. It's almost kind of a, it's meaningful for some of us in that sense. But hey, like you said, if that's not the language you choose to use, that's fine too. You have every right to do it.
Yes, except the thing is, and I understand that, and I've had conversations about that. I'm not looking to be identified by the people who are atheists. Oh, you're part of us. I'm mostly interested in getting people to be thinking a little more critically, to be making choices that are not, imaginary world choices. To not be bringing an imaginary world into the world that we live in now, to try to figure things out and to try to do to make things better. I find it clouds the issue. It just clouds the issue.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like you said, I mean, it is interesting because if you're using that label, then a bunch of people are using that label, suddenly you can group a bunch of people who are very different and very distinct in many different ways, but who just share like a lack of belief in something. That's not something that has a whole lot of commonality to it. Now, here at the atheist community of Austin, we share a lot of the same issues and we're interested in some of the same issues. But it's not the same as saying like, oh, we're both Christians, so we both have, the same destiny, or we have the same scriptures that we're looking at. So there is kind of a distinction there. And I think that choice is valid, not to use that identity for yourself. But we got some more calls.